Hey folks, your OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the iBestwin Hi-Fi Lossless Sound MP3 player. This is the 16GB version that sells on Amazon for roughly $35. You can also get it in a larger capacity variant, but the MP3 player does feature an external micro SD card to expand on the memory yourself. So a lot of these generic MP3 players that we've seen in the past does exactly what it states, which is play music and a few images or videos if you want to, but this one actually offers an extremely premium build that we'll discuss a little bit more when we take a closer look at the unit. The entire housing is built out of a one-piece aluminum, and the front is dominated by glass. So this really is a premium MP3 player that perhaps you would use if you really cared about the audio quality and just kind of the ergonomics of the unit. However, the packaging is fairly scarce. You have access to an instruction manual that is printed in full color. It's called the IB01, and there's actually a ton of unique features on here that I didn't expect from just an MP3 player. Taking a quick look at this pamphlet, not only can you play movies, play your music of course, there's an FM radio on here that uses the headphones as the antenna. There's also the ability to record sound. There's a microphone on here. It can play back text, act as a very simple ebook reader, and there's even a pedometer, so it can be used as a simple fitness tracker of sorts. So it's very fully featured for what it is. It's documented in full color, so it tells you how to set it up and access all the controls and then kind of what it looks like through the various settings. So it's definitely very helpful to have. There's also a micro USB cable included for charging. Charges up in under 2 hours and will last you for roughly 3 to 4 weeks of a playback sporadic in between before you need to recharge it again. And a bonus that I really like that they threw in there for the price is actually better headphones than you'd expect. These are fairly ergonomic in their shape. They are plastic, so they don't feel super expensive or anything, but they fit into the ears very snugly. And there's also memory wires on the part that attaches onto the outside of your ears, so that really adheres to the shape of your specific ear and again prevents them from falling loose. It uses a traditional 3.5mm plug, and there's even an inline remote control which uses a volume slider and a built-in microphone for voice recording, in addition to a play-pause key that actually works when controlling the music player. So taking a look at the design of the MP3 player first, as aforementioned, the build here is extremely impressive. It almost feels like something that Apple or Xiaomi would make, and you can see how the design language is definitely very modern and appealing. It's also quite hefty though, just because it is made out of a solid aluminum and has a unibody finish compared to plastic. On the side, there's access to a dedicated power key that you can hold for a few seconds to turn the unit on. There's also a voice recording key for quick launching the voice recorder. Just tap on it once and it begins recording automatically. Pretty handy for lecture notes, business conferences, stuff like that. The top has this really interesting design with a hole through it. You can use it as a lanyard, attaching it to a keychain, and it just makes the device look interesting and different from other MP4 players which are generic on the market. The bottom features access to a 3.5mm headphone port, the microphone, and a micro USB port for charging. The other side features a micro SD card slot for expanding memory. There's a lock switch that will completely lock the controls in the front so they don't get accidentally triggered in your pocket, and that's essentially it. You have slightly rounded corners and chamfered edges, which gives way to the glass screen on the front. This is actually a capacitive sensor, so all the keys here are touch sensitive by your finger or your flesh only. It's extremely responsive and easy to use, and the keys are also backlit, which I'll show you now. So there is a haptic kind of vibration when you tap on the keys, and there's a slight kind of LED indicator that will pop up to tell you that you've pressed on something, and this works for every single button that you would want to press on. So it's actually pretty interesting. And again, there's a ton of attention to detail, and even the interface here has been custom tuned by the manufacturer to give you quite a unique kind of user experience. So let's take a closer look at kind of some of the main programs on here now. The screen itself is relatively bright and vibrant, but for watching back videos, I wouldn't say it's the most ideal situation, just because it is relatively small. I think for most folks in 2017, a tablet, computer, or smartphone is going to give you a better video watching experience. But the forte of this device is going to be on playing back music, since it offers hi-fi lossless sound. So encoding files on here indeed sounds extremely impressive. Now, there there is no built-in DAC. So for true audiophiles out there, you may want to connect this to an external DAC, such as by Hi-Fi Man, something like that, to power more expensive headphones. But when it comes to the sound quality, which again I'll discuss a little bit more when we launch into the music player app, it is certainly one of the best I've heard out of a $35 MP3 player. So that's quite impressive. After a few seconds of inactivity, it goes into a time screen, so it tells you the time and date. Pretty handy, saves on the power as well. And then we can unlock it by tapping on any of the keys, which again are very responsive and easy to use. So in terms of the menu interface, very simple grid-like icons that I can use to navigate around. I have access to my music. Tapping on the play here enters into the setting, and from here I have the ability to toggle into more advanced things like looking by artist. I can check out all my songs, sort by genre, by playlist, by album art, so all these things can be displayed. So right now we don't have any album arts included on here, but it will play those back without any problems if you are just downloading music or content, dragging it over from, let's say, iTunes, or if you have JPEG images for your songs. It works without any issues. You can also create playlists directly on the player. So if we wanted to just play back all songs, for instance, it tells you kind of the name of the song, and after a few seconds it scrolls through to give you the entire name. And we can tap on play, and you can see it's fairly responsive. Will play back immediately. It shows a graphic equalizer if you don't have a cover art, and you can also scrub through by just tapping and holding, and you can see it's very quick to actually scrub between parts of the song without any issues. You can also toggle between various modes. Basic info is displayed here, and then it has basic multitasking in the sense that I can play back music while I'm watching a photo or reading an ebook, stuff like that. It can still play back music in the background, which is pretty nice. So again, the music quality, as aforementioned, is excellent on this player. Overall, it delivers plenty of clarity in the sound. Highs, lows come across quite apparent. In terms of bass, that will depend more on the headphones you're using, of course. So if you are, plugging it into a DAC, it does sound significantly better if you are kind of a bass head. But all in all, regardless of what genre you're playing music with, it does a fantastic job. All the common file codecs from MP3, WMA played back without any issues at all. Just plug and play, and you can insert this onto any Mac or PC and then drag files into it like a thumb drive, and it will play it back without any hiccups. So quite impressive in terms of the sound quality and the performance and ease of use. So let's go back and take a look at some other features on here. The next feature is going to be videos, and under videos you can play back video codecs up to 480p without any issues. So from here we can see that the screen is not using IPS technology, so if you slant it, it does lose kind of its detail and saturation, but all in all, not bad for a very low-cost kind of MP3, MP4 player. Of course, it's not going to be the sharpest thing, but it does play back quite smoothly. MP4 files, AVI files without any problems there. And from here, I can also kind of scrub between parts of the video, which is probably the most impressive thing, is how smooth it handles this scrubbing. This does seem a lot more snappy than other low-cost MP4 players I've tested. So perhaps the software has something to do with that. Perhaps it has to do with a faster processor underneath the hood. I'm not really sure, but regardless, it just works really well. And play pause commands also are super sensitive and easy to use. So everything that you really want to do can be handled as expected, with no real, differences between your expectation and how it actually performs, which is rare for a kind of generic MP4 player. This is the radio player. It uses FM radio bands. Again, you do need your antenna, but it can scan through and find channels that are strongest and cycle through and save those, and you can even kind of record FM radios, directly into the storage of the unit if you want to play them back later, which is pretty cool. And quality is decent. It's not excellent, but it works. Next, we have Ebook. Now, Ebook is basically just a text reader because it only reads back text, no PDF, EPUB, stuff like that. And since the screen really is quite small, it's not going to be the most ideal situation, but it works. You can still have access to the battery indicator on the top here and the page number. So you can see how some of the edges of the text are going to be slightly cut off from the sides, but all in all, not bad, and page turns is relatively swift and responsive. So if you want some quick address books or contact information, you can store it there. Voice recorder, same thing, works pretty well. I can enter here to start recording. I can look at my voice recordings. If I'm starting, it takes roughly 10 seconds to initialize, and then it starts. You can see by default, you get roughly 72 hours of high quality voice recording, and the file format is on the side here, and that's using 16 gigabytes of memory. So pretty good as far as a digital voice recorder is concerned. There is a built-in microphone again on the bottom here, in addition to one on the microphone if you're doing your own voice notes. So you can record from 2 sources. Now, it's not specifically marketed as a voice recorder first. That's because it doesn't have like noise cancellation. It doesn't cancel out background sounds if you're in a super loud environment. But if you are in a relatively quiet conference room, if you are recording things in a classroom, it works pretty well and picks up the sound without any problems in our quick testing. So let's pause it and go back. Let's not save it. Alright, so exiting out of that, we have access to a photo viewer next. Very similar experience to the, video player in the sense that it takes advantage of having a color screen and having a relatively quick processor that's kind of snappy, but the downside is it's not the most pixel dense screen, so if you're spoiled by 4K screens on a phone, it no longer remains as cool as it would have been a few years ago. Here we have a file manager to sort through things between an SD card and built-in internal memory, and the pedometer, which is again one of the cooler features on here, more interesting features at least. I can enter my personal information, things like my height, step length, so this allows it to calibrate that information to more precisely know how much step, how much motion can correspond to one step. I can look at my history as well. Now, this is a very, very basic app, so it only displays kind of number of steps and time elapsed, so you can record it for an activity, and then it also translates number of steps to calories burned, distance walked, stuff like that. So basic information will work if you're going out for a jog as you're listening to music. It's actually quite a clever implementation. Even though it doesn't do any fancy things like sleep tracking or heart rate monitoring, those are kind of extras that aren't, I think, as essential as distance and steps. So this is actually a cool feature that they gave you, since, again, a lot of people buying this might be taking it to the gym or for jogging or exercise purposes. So it works quite well. Next, we have settings, and in here I can take a look at things like a sleep timer, how long between the screen times off, audio, display. So under display, I can change the backlight. I can also change the screensaver. So let's take a look at that. So there's just the one that we have now or none, so not too much options going on there. Time and date things and languages, so if we tap on this, it gives you quite a few options to kind of cycle through. So a lot of choices there, actually pretty impressive, 26 languages. And information just gives you basic info about how much storage is left, system information, the firmware version that it's running. You can see it's fairly up to date, and finally, we can take a look at resetting the device, default information, stuff like that, and that's pretty much it. So all in all, it's very simple, it's very straightforward. This is definitely not meant as an iPod Touch competitor or something that you would, replace a smartphone with, but it acts as a simple MP3 player with a few extras thrown in that were a little bit surprising, such as the pedometer function. It works really well. I think one of the best things about the unit is really how well it's built. The construction quality is top-notch. It feels like something much more expensive than it is. In fact, it reminds me of maybe a Sony MP4 player, which would cost $100, $200. And since the sound quality is indeed excellent and supports hi-fi quality, lossless sound reproduction, it should be priced a lot higher, especially if you have more expensive headphones that you want to experiment with. So all in all, this is really a top-notch basic MP3 player, and it almost becomes audiophile grade, which is amazing considering that it costs next to nothing. So you can check out more details about this in our official written review coming out soon, but for now this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This was a closer look at the iBestwin digital MP3 player.